welcome back, everyone. It's time to go to the winners match here in Group B of the round of 8. We've had some amazing series so far. I mean, we just had Stats have the craziest last-second comeback, and then Cure also have the craziest last-second comeback.
Yeah, both these series were 2-0s, but they felt really close. I feel like anyone could have won any of the games played today. And it's been some really exciting matches, and also, honestly, hard matches to analyze. I don't know the last time, or if I've ever seen effectively Masked Thor against Masked Liberator, especially in the new patch, and watching that interaction take place.
It's been kind of insane, man. I really want to see what a game with these two looks like. Stats has been, a pretty steady, gradual growth player. He doesn't have to do that, of course. Cure has looked top-notch, specifically in this matchup. Yeah. I feel like we never see him lose in TVP. Of course, Cure has been with us every last GSL in the last couple of years. Stats is kind of new and back, so let's see where they size up. And remember, the winner goes on to that next match, round of 4. Okay, we've got Stats in the bottom right, Cure in the top left.
Notably, I think, the cutoff for GSL qualifying to DreamHack Dallas is top 6. And I believe because this is the winners match, I think Cure and Stats are locked in. Hey, Stats from Sweden! Welcome! Oh, that's a happy kid. I wish I got to see the GSL when I was a little kid, too.
I would have loved to have seen an esports match live when I was that age. That's so cool. We got a lot of Stat support here.
The Faroe Islands and Buchan. Wow.
Good to have all you guys down here. So, we're going to have Gateway into Nexus. Did I see that right? Yeah, Gateway into Nexus.
Yeah, Nexus before Cybernetic Core is an interesting take. Before the simulator, actually. This kind of reminds me of an older PBT style.
I almost had to do a double take on the build order. I thought, like, wait a minute. Because this was like, this is actually what people are doing in ASL right now. So I was like, wait, which tournament am I casting here?
That's just like watching ASL. It's like, okay, write that down, write that down. That's how I'm going to make it to the top 4.
It is weird that the two leagues for StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, GSL and ASL, it feels like occasionally influence each other. And so, yeah, we'll see. This is clearly going to be, in a very Stats-esque fashion, enough to hold off, I think, almost anything, but still get the Nexus out faster than any other way you'd go.
Well, one of the more annoying things you would have to deal with in this situation is the Reaper, if there was a Reaper coming cross-map here as Stats. But he kind of lucked out because Cure opened with a Marine into a Reactor, so there's no Reaper coming this way. In fact, it's a 3 Command Center opening here.
Oh my god, these are just two disgusting, greedy players. Look at this. Now, there's no way for Stats to know right now that it's 3 Command Center. So it's one of these games where I look at Stats and I'm kind of nodding my head and going, all right, I really like this. But who's to say that Cure doesn't still come out ahead?
Yeah, now Stats is going to be able to get a little bit of information here with aggression in the front. There are 2 Adepts on the map. The first one is already in the front line here, and Stats is watching so it doesn't get caught by these 3 Marines. Not really able to gather that much information just yet, and it's going to be an early robotics facility here for Stats. 5 Marines out in total. Oh, Stats not watching right now. He's going to take some hull damage on that 1 Adept.
Yeah, good little push there from Cure.
Oh, and he actually shades one through.
Yeah, he shades one through. He should be able to shade this out without losing it as well. The Marines are pretty slow when they're going to try to chase this. But again, good movement here from Stats. It's really exciting to see Stats playing as well as he is. Like, he just looks very on point. Sorry, how many gates is that? That's 2 gates, plus the gate he's already got and a robo. Now, this reminds me of the cast we had before. If he goes up to 4 gate, wouldn't it be great against what he's doing?
It would be.
And he's getting a War Prism, so he's going to do the rush. Now, here's what's so crazy. we were saying that Hero was going to do this every time we casted his game, and he kind of didn't do it.
But this time it's a little bit different. This is just going to be gateway or Warp Prism harassment off of 3 gateways with a 3rd base, because double gas is coming in, Robotics Bay is going down. It's not going to be a kind of blink opening. So I wonder what kind of Warp Prism attack this is going to take, what form it's going to take,
Well, it might look like it's that build I was talking about, right? If you see Stalkers and a Warp Prism out on the outside of your, your base, it might make you turtle up and stay back. He's actually going to put the 2 Adepts in here, too. This is just a very different approach from Stats. This is so cool to see.
Yeah, I wonder if this is Stats metagaming Cure just a little bit. Now, he does fly in with the Warp Prism, immediately sees the 3rd Command Center, so no surprises there, and should have a very good read on what he's up against at this point. And with some nice Warp Prism micro, able to get 1 more Marine shaved off right there, just fighting any damage he possibly can. And the first Colossus production starts back at home.
Okay, so the Colossus is coming out now. And this seems like, it sets up for a little bit of harass and keeps the Terran back. But you're going to be accumulating these Colossi with Thermal Lance. The 3rd Command Center hasn't been landed or even picked up for that matter. I think he will probably have to recall this. I think this is not a map where you can easily get this out. If the Terran wants to lock you in here forever, he can.
Yeah, you would have to recall this one if you want to get it home, but Cure with his 3 CC into barracks opening like this one, his starport is only just now completing. So that Warp Prism can stay there and be a nuisance for really the foreseeable future. It's maybe 1 minute until a Viking comes out, if Cure wants to even go for a Viking, because at this stage of the game, frankly, as Terran, you really need your medevacs. So that Warp Prism, not in any rush. Let's get out of that corner of the map and back at Stas' side of the map. He's getting charged, getting +1, adding in some additional gateways. 2nd Colossus is in production. And he did warp in 2 sentries pretty much immediately after the first Colossus was begun. So he's accumulating a lot of energy on those 2 sentries. I was curious if he was going to continue to add additional sentries on top of that and potentially lean in towards, some kind of timing push, but that's not Stat style. Instead, he's just booming up back at home. 5 more gateways in production, a Dark Shrine.
So he could have a pretty scary push here. He can set up for a 4th base, but I mean, Stats is kind of bringing this game to a pretty cool spot with the way he's going to set this up. The medevacs are going to pick up and move out on the map. It looks like they're going to be actually making a beeline over here to the 3rd base. There's really not that much to defend, but as I say that, I see some movement coming up. So he can basically meet that and drive that away. All the gates are finishing. We're getting that Warp Prism speed upgrade, 4th base.
Warp Prism did get recalled back to home.
I think Terran might actually just try to push in. I don't know how well this is going to work. Okay, he's going to try to drop 1 spot. Oh,
I can't believe he caught this.
He's going to lose the medevac with everything inside.
That's 10 army supply down in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and it almost felt like it went in slow motion there. Like, I thought Cure would have been a little bit quicker to react. Cure's going to insta-push up, and it's met again by Stats. It almost like a game of Pong. It bounces right off that army.
Stats' army movement is so good right now. Oh, man, if he's not careful, Cure's going to lose a lot of bio. Luckily, Stats was not paying attention. Some force fields there where the Stalkers focus firing down those medevacs on the front line could have been a ton more damage. And Stats, he is taking a 4th base, but I kind of feel like he's gearing up for an attack after these small wins in the middle of the map. Cure's army isn't very high-tech. It's, what, 3 or 5 medevacs. A couple of Vikings are soon to be entering the field.
Okay, but he's going to move in. This is a crazy arc. I think Stats has to back up. Really good force fields. Completely shuts that down. An overextension now from Cure. Stats with a big unload here. DT's inside the main.
Yeah, Cure with a good read actually has a lot of scans banked up right now in that main base. So seems like he had an idea that something like this would be coming.
Okay, he's going to try to come in here with these shots. Gosh, it feels like Cure has so much. It's going to come down to angling here. He's using the Marauders to tank in the front.
Oh no, there's nothing in the main base actually to clean this up, even with detection. Cure needs to win this fight in the front line. Oh, the micro on the Colossus is perfect. It barely scoots back.
Dude, Stats is playing so well. 1 Colossus goes down, but the position is so fractured right now. There's barely any meat here to cover for these Colossi, but they are going to start to do some work on these SCVs. We've already had 24 killed off, mostly in the main GG. Dude, Stats. What? I mean, in a game that looks like it was from a different generation of StarCraft, a Protoss push with the Warp Prism hitting in the main.
Stats is playing out of his
third
mind.
base. Terran's third base, by the way.
His army movement was so good. He catches the medevac. You know, with a 3 command center into mini barracks opening that Cure was going for right there, I mean, you're kind of banking on having a ton of just meat on the ground. You have Marauders, Marines, and medevacs, and a lot of it. That's where your strength comes from. And so to lose a 7th of his army just to the army movement of Stats right there, and then have Stats with the perfect follow-up. Warp Prism speed, beelining into the main base with DTs and Charge Zealots, and 3 Colossus in the front hitting right before the first Vikings pop out. I mean, that was a masterclass in terms of positioning, in terms of just kind of reading the game and going for the throat in a moment where, I mean, again, Stats, maybe a year ago, fresh out of military service, he doesn't go for the attack right then. He tries to play the defensive game, but he's really developing, man. This is a breakout season for him, regaining his old form, as Stats is now 1 map win away from going to the round of 4. Let's see if he can do it here on Oceanborn.
Okay, Cure in the bottom right, Stats in the top left. I gotta say, you know, we've had some really different games here for PVT, and of course, every player, they bring their own unique flavor to the matchup. Stats is looking so perfect in how he's approaching everything. He had that insane cheese game.
StarCraft never dies.
That's right. Ben Crazy Cheese, Triple Forge, not yet. Turtle Sky Tosco Burr.
Good chance here, actually.
So I thought we were going to have Turtle Sky Tosco Burr first in your list of ticked boxes.
With Stats, yeah.
Yeah, because he's kind of known for that. But like the way that he handled that game was such a masterclass in the matchup. I can't believe he was able to push in with that little.
It was pretty remarkable.
Have you seen a Protoss do that much with... I've seen Protosses with way more on the ground and still lose the fight. So the fact that he was able to do that, he also did a great job of kind of oscillating between warping in and dropping DTs and Zealots in the main. We were mostly watching the push, but I think it put a lot of difficulties in. Like as an example, he only dropped 1 DT. He didn't do the mass warp in. So he's kind of banking on you maybe baiting out enough scans, and then later on the damage snowballs and you don't have that scan. Okay, citizens arrest.
Stats is washed.
It's over,
Probe
man.
goes down, it's over.
I'm very disappointed.
No, but Sats is playing this really well. I mean, the way he was able to navigate the army positioning, I think it really does all come back to the medevac, because at that point, there's basically no fog of war anymore as Stats. You kill the medevac, you see where Terran is retreating into. You're no longer afraid of, say, a double medevac drop coming into the main base because you caught the drop ships that were going to go for that. You know there's no counterattack. You can commit every unit, every resource to aggression. And you're doing it on the back of killing 10 army supply in a pivotal moment in the game, which is Terran right before they get the Vikings out against your Colossus composition. And I mean, Stats just played that so well. The fact that he was able to read the situation and move in with incomplete information was so impressive, because, again, we think of Stats, even nowadays, as this slow macro player that is not afraid to play the exhaust game. I was watching Stats play in the Star Wars qualifiers. There was a game he played against Cure.
It's Stars War, right?
Is it Stars War? I don't know, actually.
It's Stars War. I played it in Stars War the first year they did it. Me and Idred.
That's how we find out I'm dyslexic.
No, because me and Artosis and Idred,
Stars War.
We represented America versus Korea and China.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot less cool than Star Wars, though.
Yeah. It also sounds a lot less cool, and it was the 3 of us down there as well. But yeah, no, I remember.
Okay.
Because every time I was telling people about the event, they'd be like, Star Wars? And I'm like, no, Stars War.
I actually had I never know. Man, I really should work on my reading comprehension. I never noticed. I was trying to find the games on YouTube, and I was like, man, I wish they didn't call it Star Wars, because I'm just getting all these highlights of the trilogy,
it's too bad,
like, the prequels. And
Disney's going to close this tournament any second.
But
if Bob Iger finds out about this.
There was a game that Stats played against Cure, which went to such an extreme late game. Stats had 185 army supply of carriers with 1 mothership and 1 warp prism with Storm. That is insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is check off the little list you got there of turtle and a sky toss.
Yeah, that was missing on that guy's sign.
That is the kind of stats I was expecting to see today, especially given the way the round of 16 games went for stats, where he won a bunch of PVZs, basically playing that kind of style in a different matchup. But the range that he's showing here in the round of 8, I mean, he is looking like a new and improved player. He's looking like the stats of old even. Risen from the grave. And he has just been playing out of his mind.
He's clearly put the hours in. He's clearly modernized his play style while still keeping, that stats touch that makes him so solid. We have a Widowmine drop, and Stats is going to be able to catch this in a way where I don't think it can drop. Gosh, I thought he was going to at least get 3 volleys on it. It kind of barely misses that.
Yeah, just enough dead airspace.
This is where Terran finds out he doesn't have recall. He's like, no, Protoss OP, Reddit's right.
Well, Robotics Bay going down, as well as I think that was Blink getting research there in the production tab. Check again. Oh, no.
All right, not bad.
I mean, losing a Stalker is always really painful, but luckily at least the Widowmines will get taken out as the Warp, or not the Warp Prism, the Medevac raced out of there as fast as it could.
So a Forge is coming down now. So there's no indication that Stats wants to attack out. I don't think he should, by the way.
Is Kure going to drop this one Hellion? I think he is.
It's like there's one probe in there with no HP.
Oh, this is so funny. I thought for sure Kure was going to be bringing this Medevac.
He might want to use it later to scout or something, if he can save a scan.
I know, it's just such a cute tactic. Make one Hellion out of one factory to send across map for this. So Stats is taking that third base. Colossus Tech again here for Stats. That Medevac just testing the waters a little bit, and now there's a big push coming out the front. Now Stats does have Blink, just finished researching, so the Stalkers are not going to be left for dead there in the middle of the map, but this is a scary push coming in from Kure. He's been able to amass a pretty substantial amount of bio on the ground, and this time Stats might get caught with only one Colossus, because Kure is going for a much later third command center this time. It only just now is getting planted down at the third base. It's a much more aggressive opening coming out from Kure, and that's why you see Stats right now throwing down additional shield batteries. He's focusing a lot on warping in units to deal with this as opposed to filling out his tech tree a little bit more. But the army positioning for Stats here, again, is really on point. He has the Stalkers in the main base covering the Medevac that's going to come in with a Hellion in a moment.
So what Kure's about to do, he's so good at. He's going to hit 3 different places at once. So he's going to probably show that Medevac with the Hellion first. Oh, never mind. What?
Blink's done. 5 Stalkers able to 2-shot these Medevacs. Now the units were all able to drop in, but Gateway units should be able to clean this up with the Zealots coming through.
This is so weird.
Stats is getting pulled a little bit out of position right now. He brought all those units from the third base into the natural expansion. Now the Medevac's going to rejoin up here with this Hellion and the Medevac near the main base.
It's so weird. I thought he was for sure going to show the one Medevac somewhere else and then drop over here, but instead he's like just taking turns dropping to different spots of the map. So round 2 is going to be over here. Well, the Stalkers are now leaving. I'm a little bit more caught off guard with the way that Kure's playing. It looked like he was ready to have 3 different things happen and 3 different screens worth of stuff happening.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
So it seemed kind of like an obvious setup, but instead he's going to wait for another moment to hit 2 spots at once. It's going to be happening while Stats is leaving.
Stats moving forward does spot this double Medevac drop here in front of his base, but 3 Medevacs are in position above the main base, and this might be the moment you were expecting before.
Yeah.
Oh, recall gets forced too, so this really limits the options here for Stats in terms of repositioning his army. He saw those 3 Medevacs and it spooked him.
So when you see that they've used the recall, then you know that positionally they're going to be weaker because they can't, instant react to something. They're going to have to wait. So he's going to drop here. Now this is not bad. He's going to force a cancel. He can try to pick up. I think he probably should just leave, but he's going to go into the main instead. Now, what's back in the main? There are Stalkers here, so this isn't going to really do anything.
Yeah, if Kure really wanted to force the issue, he might be able to. Oh, those Medevacs got to be careful.
Stats is everywhere, man. It's kind of crazy.
He is really quick with the reactions.
It's one thing to have enough units there that you can take a fight wherever they're going to drop. The fact that he's so fast that he's getting every Medevac to half health before it leaves or killing them off is pretty wild.
Medevac's going to come back down here. Now, this is the only spot of Stats Army where he actually can't deal with the Medevacs. Oh, Colossus might get picked off right here. There is no shield battery. Oh, the force fields are
God,
perfect!
he's so good. He's so good.
Oh my
He's
goodness!
so good. I can't believe he did that.
He's not picking up. He's losing so much bio on the ground right now, too. Warp Prism now coming into the natural expansion. Now
Right, well.
flies into the worst place possible. There's 4 Marines, 4 Vikings, and a missile turret.
Yeah,
It's like the start of a bad choke.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, a really big win right there for Stats. Cure got greedy going for the Colossus, and even Stats catching these 2 Medevacs in the middle of the map. He's kind of pushing Cure back into a corner again. Now, I don't know if he's going to commit like the way he did in the previous map because he just lost the Warp Prism, but this is kind of a scary situation here for Cure. Keep in mind that he didn't go for a fast third command center. He went for really fast Medevacs with a ton of bio early on into that low ground third CC, so he doesn't have the same macro that he did in the previous game. And the fact that he hasn't really been able to get too much damage done besides, I guess, canceling the 4th base and delaying it by about a minute, 2 minutes, it's not really a lot to show for. Even the... Oh my goodness, he dodges the Widowmine shot here with the Zella on the left side, too.
That was so sick. So, we're almost to the point where, in a classic Stats game, it's going to be his turn.
Yeah.
He's not going to just sit back and defend forever. Now, if he starts to make a bunch of Stargates, then I'll take it back. He will stay back and defend forever. But it looks to me like this is just going to be a push.
Disruptors are getting mixed in now. At the same time, Cure is adding in Ghost to his army composition. Now, the Viking count is pretty healthy here for Cure. They're going to take another Warp Prism down right away. So here for Stats, I'm wondering if you actually do just go into Stargates in this position, because it feels like he had a couple of times that might have been a window for him to push in, but both times the Warp Prism got sniped. The first one was in the natural expansion, and now when he was moving forward, again, he got caught. And that's the first Stargate going down. So, oh, Cure overextending a little bit. At least one Ghost goes down. Stats really aggressive on that forward blink. Uses a disruption ball to shoo the Terran army away. A favorable trade. Actually, 2 Ghosts go down right there.
Okay, the Disruptor's a little bit exposed. So he's not able to, well, hold on. Is Terran just going to try to shove in here?
He might.
Again, if the Vikings can basically take out the Colossus, then they've done their job. There's too many Vikings, so they can't, the Colossus can't be salvaged. But is it an overextension here from Cure? Most of the Vikings are picked off. He's switched into Disruptors. And this is a situation where it becomes extremely difficult for Terran to advance in and kind of lock in on damage. You kind of have to try to move in and move out. It also lets the Protoss push. There are so many Zealots here. The Disruptors almost can't even get close enough to the Marines to hit him.
Pretty good hit there on the ground. Gonna get these 2 Widowmines on the right side.
Dude, he's just so on point with his control. It is so incredible to me.
Yeah, there is already 1 Stargate in the main base. We'll see if Stats is going to throw down more of them and go for the transition, or if he just wants to try and stabilize. And yep, Fleet Beacon already going down. +1 air weapons has begun, as well as a 2nd Cybernetics core. So the Stargate transition is coming in. Now, unfortunately for Stats, his army composition doesn't mesh incredibly well. It's a lot of charge cells with Disruptors, which, I mean, one of them you kind of want to sit back in a ball and just shoot the Terran army away. The other one wants to chase down the Terran. It's not the best composition, but defensively, I think it should manage you for Stats, especially if he wants to start splintering off some sections of Zealots to go for counterattacks. But actually, we'll see right now. Cure is over on the left side with a big chunk of bio, so there is potential for an arc.
Yeah, he could try to do some sort of a flank. So what we were talking about where he might just stay back and turtle forever, I think he's going to do that. So he wants to go into mass carriers here.
And he wants to trade out some of these Zealots too. That's why he's being so aggressive, because he needs to free up supply for the carriers, and also these Zealots, they are not going to scale very well here in the late game, especially with the composition he's running with.
Now, if Cure's really on point, he's going to see these Zealots come through and go, what are you doing? Why are you trying to get rid of Zealots? Obviously, that means you want to free this up for carriers.
Well, Cure's trying to set up right now for a surround, looking for 100 degrees, but Stats is going to evacuate from that position. Cure instead going to split his army into 2 groups, one of them going for the 4th base, one of them trying to meet Stats in the middle of the map. These Zealots might get caught going into the natural expansion. Stats is pretty quick retreating with them. Scan comes through. Looks like Stats might commit to an attack right here. Dodges another Widowmine shot. Cure not going for the counterattack, instead going to come and try and meet in. He really wants to set up a full surround on this Protoss army. He's going for it. And if you can get a big surround on these Disruptors, especially if a couple of them share their shots, Oh, but Stats actually isolating this army on the left side. Disruptor shot on the right is really good. He's able to isolate just one of these armies. This is a better trade for Stats than he could have hoped for, really.
Yeah.
Especially in this choke point again.
It doesn't seem like he has enough disruptor shots. He might have moved through them a little bit too quickly. Now Kira's going to come in to pounce. The cooldown ends, and so a lot more disruptor shots can come back out. Stats refills his supply. Remember that we can watch these two armies dance all day back and forth, but the important thing that's happening is that Stats is accumulating carriers.
Yeah, and you might be looking at that fight, seeing Stats lose a lot of gateway units and think that is bad for him because it wasn't the most cost-efficient trade, but those gateway units aren't super critical right now. It's really the disruptor count. As long as he's able to retain this, even losing this Nexus doesn't matter that much. Stats at this point just kind of wants to max and then play his game. He only has 2 carriers. He needs to wait until the next round pops, and then he can be active on the map.
So, I think Kier's got a setup where it's going to be hard for Stats to really get any bigger here. He basically can keep one small group of infantry down here and the other one at the top center of the map. He is bringing the carriers in here. I don't think this is a huge reveal. It's not abnormal to go for carriers in late game in this matchup, but just showing the first 2 does give your opponent an idea of where you're at. Another dive in. Oh!
Oh, the focus fire is so good there by Cure. Every single disruptor shot gets thwarted by the focus fire. Cure now pouncing on this 3rd base. Stats maybe should have lent a little bit more units or static defense here to defend this Nexus. Instead, this entire mineral line is wiped. And yes, you do have 6 carriers on the map, but at what cost? Because Cure is absolutely pulling him apart.
Yeah, as you were saying, State, it's so much more important to have the oh my god, and now the carriers are going to fall here because he's just going to be able to run right underneath it. I think he's, oh my god, yeah, the Viking gets that final shot off. I think that Kier just won.
Yeah.
Basically, Stats was just hanging on and looking perfect, but when we saw the stim dive in that killed all the disruptors, then you don't have any way to control the ground, plus he dropped 2 carriers. Another game where it looks like anybody could take it, and then suddenly one guy wins.
I mean, Stats was getting himself into a pretty good position, but just spreading himself too thin right there. I mean, it was only disruptors on the right side, and Cure was so good about dodging and also defusing those shots that eventually the bio just gets on top of the disruptors. Those units are intended to have support with them, right? I mean, they just got absolutely eviscerated there. So Stats going to try and push forward here with the carriers. There isn't that much anti-air here for Cure, but it is reinforcing. We'll see how much Stats is able to get done.
Yeah, now the carriers could be a real threat. They can start to really dish out quite a bit of damage. I mean, one of the reasons why you're trying to build up to this number of carriers at all is because it becomes a nightmare to try to deal with. But it's a 3-base Terran to, sorry, 3-base Protoss to what is soon to be a 4-base Terran. So he takes that out.
Let's hold on, though.
Let's see if he can push it again.
Cure tried to defend that base with a little bit too little anti-air, and he ended up bleeding pretty much all of his Marines and all of his Vikings, so his anti-air count got effectively reset, and that means that Stats might have a window where he's able to get something done with these carriers. There still isn't really an answer for them. Now finally we have 12 Vikings on the field, but still only 9 Marines, 5 Ghosts.
Yeah, this is a moment where he needs a Corsair, man. Kill those Vikings off. He's going to go for Archons, which is a smart move. If he can get those Archons under the clumped Vikings, maybe. I still think Cure's okay, but again, it's going to come down to how you handle the Protoss Death Ball.
Let's see if those sentries get EMP'd. Yep, they do immediately right there. Clutch micro coming in from Cure. Micro's forward, focus is firing down. One of the carriers here with the Vikings immediately takes it out.
The Archons are kind of lagging behind, but the carriers are still being shown the respect. He's going to stay back. The Vikings are getting picked off. It's just some Marines and some Marauders, but I think enough to kill the carriers. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, finally the carrier is getting dealt with. I really thought Stats might have had a better chance right there at this opening push. I mean, so much anti-air felt for Cure when he was trying to defend that 5th base all the way down there on the left side. And still 2 carriers do survive. 51 probes right now to 54 SCVs. Does Stats have any carriers back at home? No, it's only the 2 on the map right now. We're not sure how many are in production at just this moment. Stats is re-expanding.
Yeah, he's growing out right now. The thing is, the army supply for Stats is lower, but carriers are just like, they're better units, right? They're able to pick off things and avoid being killed off if protected correctly. I like the DT add in here.
Cure is
what?
Back
on. Oh my god.
Looks like Clem Widowmine just keeps retargeting. Yeah. All right, well, Kira is going to push forward again. I think he set his eyes on this base as a target, but I don't know, man. If Stats is able to defend, I know his army supply is very low, but he's just focusing on making Stalkers right now. If he's able to defend that base, he's on 5 bases to the 4 currently of Cure. His economy is pretty much on par with the Terran. Cure is a little bit ahead right now because he has some mules that are landing, but overall, Stats does have the better saturation. You see all those mules right there in the 4th base. There are no more carriers in production right now for Stats. It's just the 2 you have on the screen. One of them finally starts up. There is, oh, he cancels it, goes for Disruptors. I like that choice. Stats just needs to try and survive. I mean, there is a world where Cure overextends, and once again, things kind of equalize.
Right.
But that is a very scary force that Cure has assembled. 98 army supply in total.
I love the Zealots coming down here. These little moments of harassment. He's going to have a big warp at his Zealots here.
Means he has to take this fight, too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, I think this is not bad, honestly. He's going to blink in. He's gonna lose some of these Zealots, but the carriers are going to come in here just in time. He's going to micro this one carrier back. The Vikings are going to be forced to dive. The Stalkers, in a kind of weird moment, blink back themselves. And usually when it's just Stalkers, it's a bad sign, but he's going to keep trying to fight. 2 more Zealots come in, buying them a little bit more time.
The Disruptor is coming out here. Might be able to get some Vikings of all things. Gets 3 of them in total. Second Disruptor shot comes in.
Oh, the reinforcements, I think, are going to be too much.
What a hot pickup on the medevac, too. Maybe if Stats had that engagement with the 2 carriers attacking the entire time.
I like the Zealots coming in here to hit the reinforcements.
I mean, the counterattack from Stats was really good, but the standing army here for Cure is so massive. I'm not sure Stats will be able to remax and deal with it. I mean, it is insane that Stats, after losing so much, fumbling the Disruptors over at the 4th base, is still able to throw some haymakers like this. I mean, he has gotten so much better. This has been such a fun game.
Yeah, Cure has that timing exactly on when you can kill the Disruptor or not. GG, we're going to game 3, and I have no idea who's going to take this.
Oh, it's been a really fun series. Every single series so far today has just been loaded with action. It has been an incredible day here at the GSL, and I mean, we're like, what, halfway through it? It's a lot of fun.
It's been wild, man. You know, I like what I saw from Stats there. Cure has that killer instinct. Like the fact that he dove into 9 Disruptors, State. 9 Disruptors. If you have just 2 of those Disruptor shots finished, the entire army is chunked out. But he pulls it off.
I mean, Cure just had the soul read on him right there, and Stats was not able to commit enough resources to the defense. And that was really the critical moment there for Cure. If he wasn't able to find that window, maybe Stats is able to get to that maxed carrier army that he's been so good with recently. Guys, we're about to go into game number 3 here in the winners match. The winner of this map is going on to the round of 4.
Cure in the top right, Stats in the bottom left. What a treat these games have been, honestly. Stats did go into that Stats style of just trying to defend. You know, I feel like we see it only with him, really, and I guess with Rain back in the day. It's just hard to pull off. You have to hold off so many attacks perfectly over and over to even get to the point where it's your turn. But again, if you're that good at it, I don't see how you lose.
The way that I see Stats play PVT and a lot of other matchups, it kind of reminds me of the way that we see Maru. By the way, double gas opening in here from Cure, so some cheeky antics might be in the cards. But Stats has just demonstrated, not just in the GSL, but in other tournaments he's played recently, that he's not afraid to go for these game-winning plays in the mid-game. But when he identifies that he doesn't have a window to close it out and kill you, he's just happy to turtle down and play the exhaust game. The same way that, you know, a player of Maru's caliber might play a TVZ, where if he's able to get some kind of edge, if he knows that he can kill the Zerg or has a good chance of killing the Zerg, he will go for the push. But if that window closes, you know, we throw down 3 more command centers, we build some planetaries, we amass the ghosts, and we play the late game. And that's kind of the way that Stats has been approaching PVZ. We saw it against Dark. It's the way he's been approaching PVT. We've seen it against Cure so far today. And it's really been paying off for him. But I think the part of Stats' play that I have been the most impressed with so far in this GSL is, Stats, he's been back from military service for a while. He's been playing good but not great since then. Certainly not to the expectations that fans have of him. And his weakness up until this point hasn't necessarily been strategy, but really it feels like he's slower. He's older, his reaction times, they haven't been as good. His micro hasn't been as crisp. But in this GSL particularly, his control and his reactions have been so fast. I mean, how many Widowmine shots did we see him dodge with, Warp Prisms picking up one Zealot? Or Stalkers blinking out when there's other action happening elsewhere on the map? Or how quickly he's able to react to a medevac barely entering his field of view on the minimap. It's kind of like Stats in his prime, where it was kind of like he would be the all-seeing eye. He would just know everything that's going on. If it's in his field of view, he's aware of it. He's dealing with it, and that's been an aspect of his gameplay that he has really been lacking ever since he returned from military service, but it feels like somehow it's come back to him.
Well, it's funny. When players do their mandatory military service, it seems to go one of two ways, right? Either they come back and they are just not the same person. They're not whether motivated or they can't keep up with the meta. There's something to be said about the fact that when you leave the game, you've lost all this time of practicing and kind of being up to date. It's like you got to really kind of cram and put a lot of work in to get your footing and then figure out, okay, how am I going to play this amongst all these other great players? But, the truth is we do see players that come back from the military and they play extremely well. And they look really good. And I feel like we're seeing that now. And sometimes it's because once you're done with the military, you're allowed to do whatever you want with the rest of your life. As a guy out here in Korea. You do that military service, now you're free, you're done. You want to go to school, do you want to get a job full time, do you want to keep trying to be a pro gamer, what's it going to be? And clearly he's put the hours in, he looks like he's in great shape.
It's been paying off too. His play has looked spectacular over the past couple of weeks. Stats going for a 3-gate robo build, double gas in the natural expansion getting taken now right around the 4-minute mark, and Kira's about to throw him bit of a curveball here with a Widowmine drop coming into the main base. Not paired with any other aggression, though. And it seems like Kira's instead kind of gearing up for 2-base timing with Siege Tank. So we'll see what he's able to get done with these first few medevacs, or Widowmines, excuse me. But the medevac instantly just gets deflected right there. And even this probe that was throwing down spotter pylons catches the other Widowmine outside the natural expansion. So Stats just keenly aware of everything again. He has been so good at dealing with this early game harass.
So we're going to have a 2-base push coming out here pretty soon. Mm-hmm. The idea is that the Widowmines are going to get in and do enough damage and maybe get the Protoss limping into the later part of the game. And behind that, you're going to pack a real punch here as Terran. A Raven's going to be sent out as well. This is another moment to do like a screen draw away. Send the auto turrets in there, and as they're dealing with that, you drop the Widowmines in. Try to find any opportunities anywhere you can.
There are 4 or 5 stalkers roaming around the middle of the map right now, and they just saw the Raven fly over that spotter pylon. So Stats is already aware of what is happening here. That's why you see Kira actually to stop in his tracks outside that 3rd base. Does not want that Raven to get picked off before the push is able to commence. Same with this medevac, only on half HP. Down by the 7 o'clock position. Now Kira is continuing to macro up. Still no 3rd command center. He is heavily invested in this push. Stim and +1 only just now underway. Medevac's now getting reactored out. Finally, the Raven's going to come in, but I mean, Stats just, again, so quick with the reaction times. He blinks in, Raven takes half damage, has to go out.
Okay, so here comes the push. Now, pushes like this, you have to make them work. They're not as easy to recover from as the Terran if they don't work, unless you really trade it out well. Now, that being said, the Protoss has to make sure they hold this. If they don't hold this, they lose the game.
And Stats saw the move out as soon as it was happening, so he knows exactly what is going on. He's still aware of the medevac down in the bottom. He knows about the Raven all the way over there on the left side.
I think he's actually going to have the Raven merge up with the army. I think he sent the Raven there to make it look like it's a harass play, because usually you do that when you're taking 3 bases.
Nice reaction speed there by Stats as well. Pulls just 1 probe for each Widowmine. Even with a force field, able to get the other. Some nice play, and now Kira's going to start gunning for that natural expansion. He scans forward. This should telegraph to Stats exactly where the push is going to be coming from. 5 more gateways and charge in production right now for Stats. This is a moment in the game where he doesn't have Thermal Lance, he doesn't have charge, he doesn't have +1. He's a little bit weak, so he wants to buy some time, but oh, there's a lot of critical infrastructure actually here, the natural expansion. That is very exposed.
Looks like Thermal Lance is going to finish just in the nick of time. That can allow him to engage with this group of units on the low ground a little bit more easily.
That Forge is probably going to go down before +1 is done.
I think so.
No battery over there to overcharge it.
Oh, another Widowmine comes in. I think that's just out of range of the cannon. Yes, it is.
Oh, the Stalkers from the high ground going to be able to defuse it.
Takes out the medevac there. Now, losing the +1 attack upgrade, he cancels it before it even can be wiped. He's also making in a Warp Prism, probably for a counter push in a little bit. Terran's taking their third. Going to edge it now and try to hit that Robo support bay.
Warp Prism with Warp Prism speed. 2 Forges in production here for Stats. Well, he's going to Guardian Shield and try and get some damage done. Actually, Stalkers focusing down the Raven are able to take it out. Going for the Siege Tanks too. Those Siege Tanks now target firing the Stalkers. This is such a hard angle for the Stalkers to get good damage in.
Yeah, he is going to clean up that last tank. It really makes you appreciate how long it takes a Colossus to shoot down a tank. A blink into the main here and a warp in, but is there enough for the Protoss to actually take on this fight? It seems like Cure may just barely have enough.
Yeah, that is not very good for Stats. Losing all of those Stalkers after losing the Stalkers in the natural expansion. Those are expensive units that are hard to replace. You kind of want to make, 8 or 10 of them and then just not build any more oftentimes instead. Stats going to have to reinvest a lot of gas into Stalkers, and they're getting some good damage done, but not really the knockout punch I think he was going for with this build. But behind it, does have the 3rd command center planted on the base. He is mining.
He's got workers over there. He's continuing to produce. We do have that Warp Prism out. Is there counterplay right now? Does, in fact, Cure want to just try to stay super active with those medevacs and try to keep dropping and keep Stats back home?
I feel like if you're Stats right now, you kind of want to be on the aggression. Oh, even spots the double medevacs over here.
High five.
Would love to see him section off just a couple Stalkers to go down and try and catch these dropships.
He fakes out the Warp Prism going in. He waits till he's moved past it, then goes and back through the blind spot. Terran's going to try to unload over here and try to push in. Now, he is going to be met with these Stalkers. I think Stats is hoping for a win that's not a trade at all, but just like a massacre. Ooh. And that's what he's going to get over here. If he blinks in, he can kill that medevac. He's going to be able to get at least 1, almost 2, and that was really nice. Now there's another move in over here. He's going to get the recall. That's going to be denied. And do we have a counterpunch right now? He's going to send the Warp Prism back out. We could see a big push come back in here from Stats. He wants to try to find his own damage. Cure wants to try to do anything to buy time. So Cure is going to try to loop around. Meanwhile, we have a drop coming in here. Just 1 Zealot in that worker line. Stats is actually... Oh! Okay. Doesn't overextend into that. Big warp in here. A lot of Zealots out. Cure basically being hunted right now on the map.
Yeah, 1-1 about to finish here for Protoss too, and Stats has almost complete map control. He's getting to pin Cure back with this drop in the main base and the natural that still hasn't been cleaned up. And behind it, he's been able to push Terran all the way back into their corner with the exception of this small drop with just 2 Marauders and 1 medevac. And now Stats back at home. He's not going into Stargates just yet. Instead, he threw down a 2nd robotics facility. Oh, he's even going to clean this up. Man, Stats is so on point.
It's like the best defense Protoss has ever had. I think a lot of other Protoss players would have tried to beeline over to the 3rd base and start to do damage.
Hero certainly would have.
Yeah, yeah. But Stats just kind of keeps wiping out everything Terran has. And look at how much smaller Terran is than Protoss right now.
Yeah, this is a rare moment where you see Protoss almost 30 army supply ahead of Terran. And he's building disruptors 2 at a time. His army on the ground is going to be really powerful. And Cure actually bring these Vikings back. He went fishing for that Warp Prism, didn't quite catch it, but now finally does. Still, that Warp Prism having speed means that it can retreat away. And Stats pretty soon is going to be getting close to max. He's only a couple of Warp-in rounds away from having a maxed army with 2-2 almost complete as well. It's about halfway done. And this might be the kind of moment where Stats starts to get a little bit aggressive because he's had all these small wins against the Terran army. Even picking up a Ghost like this, I mean, there's just all these little tiny paper cuts that he's putting in onto Cure that are chipping away at him. Meanwhile, Stats, his defense has been impenetrable basically since the opening salvo of this game. And Now he's finally going to get aggressive. He's pushing into the third base with a really powerful force.
You know, he kind of wasted those zealots. I think he might have wanted to wait to send those in there because that just got completely wiped. I don't think they did a single one digit of damage there. And I think smartly so, Stats backs off. He realizes, okay, look at the red blips on the map. There's basically spotters everywhere. You're not going to be surprised with medevacs. You're going to see them coming. So you backed off a little bit, probably expecting a big pickup and a move out there once the Zealots were killed off, but nothing happens. Now, 2-2 is going to finish, which is another reason why I think Stats is kind of biding his time and not committing to any one location on the map.
3-3 actually hasn't started yet for Kira. I'm surprised about that, especially in the current patch. It's a little bit cheaper than it was in previous patches. I wonder if perhaps he forgot? I mean, hopefully maybe when he gets ship upgrades level 2, he will remember, but Stats right now is starting to add in some Stargates, so the carrier transition is beginning back at home. I think once again he's identified that his window is closing, and so he has to go for the end game, but still, the army that he has on the ground is really impressive.
Stats here trying to right the wrong from game 2.
3-3 finally starting up here for Cure, splitting his army into 2 groups, one smaller group on the right side, larger group defending here on the north. And both players just kind of building up. Love the double sensor tower coming in from Kira. That's going to be able to reveal a pretty significant portion of the map.
Now, the last time when Stats lost, it was because these disruptors were killed in quick succession. All the disruptors were wiped in a matter of seconds. It's important that Stats never gets in a situation where that could even happen. The reason why they were all killed off last time is because they were all by themselves.
This time his ground force is a lot stronger than it was previously. He still has his 3 Colossus. He's been able to remake his Stalker count all the way up to 14. And with a full energy sentry, unless Cure somehow gets the jump on him with some insane arc, I don't think Stats is really going to lose any straight up head-on engagement. It's going to take Cure trying to pull him apart a little bit if he wants to get some big damage done. But actually it's Stats who's catching Cure a little bit out of position right now. One straight medevac and a bunch of bio getting evaporated by those lasers. Meanwhile, I mean, Stats is happy to lose any supply right now because he's freeing it for 4 Stargate carriers back at home. Already +1 air weapons is complete. Cure licking his wounds a little bit, repositioning his army to the right side, but Stats is still here knocking at his front door. Cure might go for something like a pseudo base trade. You see him sectioning off a small group of units down here to the bottom, but Stats is having to trade out of base and then recall, I think.
Yeah, I think he wants to try to pick this off and then maybe send this back home. Or maybe he gives this up. Does he just want to try to keep pushing into the main here?
Oh, he just recalled the Disruptors.
Okay, now this is that moment.
Oh, no, it's only the Disruptors.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Now, last time he sent out too many shots. Look at this. He's just going to completely ignore them, come across the map, and try to kill this off as quick as he can.
Yeah, the Disruptors can't really chase this down. They are going to get some volleys off on the bio, but 21 probes in total going down. It's so weird to see the Terran bio army run away from Disruptors like this. But the Stalkers are coming, and Kieran knows it. And actually, not enough medevacs to lift everything up right there, so that's a pretty big win there for Stats. Yes, he did lose these 2 bases, but he was able to take down one of the Terran bases. Meanwhile, he expanded over here to the 9 o'clock position, and he got, what, 3 ghosts and a bunch of bio for his trouble.
Yeah.
And he freed up supply. Notice he's not remaking the probes that quickly. He made 1 round of probes, now he's stopping that production because he's making more carriers.
It's more important that he eventually gets this carrier death ball that Terran can't deal with. And you just continue to parry those attacks. You know, Terran have a hard time getting more bases than what you mostly see over here.
Oh, these picks are so good for Stats too. And Stats is not afraid of going to a really low worker count if the situation calls for it. In a series against Kira recently, as I mentioned, in game 1 today, he went down to 15 probes, 185 army supply of carriers, Storm, and a mothership. And that is recent memory for both of these players right now. Still, we're a couple steps away from that stage in this game as Stats continue to find damage on the right side with these Stalkers. The pylon spread in terms of vision is just massive here for Stats, even controlling the watchtower in the center up until this moment. We have 8 carriers, 8 disruptors, a handful of Colossus, and now Storm coming in here for Stats, who's still fighting damage with these Stalkers. Now finally, Kira is able to clean a lot of them up. Skin comes in over here in the 9 o'clock position as Kira is trying to pull Stats' army out. And you see that second scan there in the center of the map. He knows that Stats is maneuvering around, and he wants to get a really good read on what the composition is, where the units are, where they're heading, so he can try and find a window.
God, there's so many Vikings and Liberators now. Kira, I think, has finally decided it's time to push. The carrier count is really high. I almost wonder if this is, you know, a moment where, like, have you let them get too much? We've got the Liberators now advancing forward here. This basically makes the ground army, giving them no way to actually engage with this. The carriers are going to come out. The Vikings have to try to kite this. A lot of them are just getting picked off as they retreat.
I mean, the carrier count is just too high. 9 carriers to 15 Vikings, and these carriers already have +2. I don't even know if there's any mechanical armor here for Kira at all. And Sennington to send this bio back down to the bottom, take out these 2 bases again, or at least try to, as the reinforcements are coming in. Warp Prism back out here for Stats, so he can get on the offensive. Still only sitting at 55 workers to the 70 here of Kira, which means that the standing army here for Stats, it's really strong. And basically every unit is a high-value unit. It's just Disruptors, Carriers, Colossi, and Storm with a handful of Stalkers to support. Soon to be +3 air attack.
Yeah.
For Stats. The Vikings have no armor. They have no armor. They're going to get eviscerated from these carriers in a head-on engagement.
It seems like Stats may have finally brought this game to where he wanted it to go. He's now going to sweep up here and start to hit this base. He's going to be able to take out the gold base over here, probably no problem, although I think we're going to see Kira debate contesting it. And look at how quickly everything is getting wiped out. He's going to very gradually move up. He's going to, by the way, he's banking a lot of minerals and a lot of gas over time as he does this. The thing about the carriers is that they don't really have to trade. Okay. The Vikings come in. The Vikings are getting to one-shot these carriers.
A lot of the Stalkers actually targeting the Planetary right now. The carriers, I think they're barely edging out the Vikings. Oh, the Storm is massive! Every single air unit
oh my God.
Gets caught in the Storm. Now, there aren't that many Interceptors left, so the carriers do have to retreat, but that's what the Disruptors are for. They're going to buy space here for the carriers.
Yeah, and here we go. These shots come out.
Oh, the shots are really good. Only a handful of Marines left on the ground. We still have 2 more Storms, or at least 1. Archon gets morphed here in the front. Kira is still hanging on. The reinforcing Viking is able to take down another carrier. Stats now with a Warp Prism reinforcing right on the front line, but look at the money.
It's wild. There's only 4 more carriers, though. We have more carriers, I think, being produced. Or no, maybe we don't, actually. He's actually stopped.
Hey, he's warping in more Stalkers. I'm actually surprised that Stats isn't committing to the attack right now. I guess he needs time for +3 air weapons to complete. He needs time for these carriers to replenish their Interceptors, but
yeah, I think so.
I believe the reason he's not making carriers is because right now he knows he has a window.
Oh, wait, there's... oh, no, that was 8 units lost. Excuse me. I was like, wait, there's 8 carriers. That's crazy. Yeah, this makes sense. I think you just go with a kind of basic ground army. When Terran's this low, especially when you have this many Vikings, like what are Vikings going to do versus your ground army? Did you kill all the carriers? Okay, who cares? I've got Stalker Disruptor. How are your Vikings going to fight that?
Yeah, the Stalker Disruptor are going to do a lot of heavy lifting in these engagements. Still 7 Disruptors alive.
He wants to try to go for the army here.
Go for the army and get on top of the production.
He's going to just stay out of range here.
Oh, got to be careful with those Vikings, though. They can one-shot that weakened carrier. Stalker's now coming in to reinforce.
Oh, Archon's underneath.
Splash damage is really big. This is a key moment.
Another big warping round of Stalkers. Carriers are still alive in the back. The Vikings can't really find a position to hit. Does he take the free kill over here on the right? I think he does.
I think you got to go for it. Kira's going to try and prevent that from being a free kill. Okay, blink forward. Repair's going to come through, though. You won't be able to snipe that down. Actually, the Disruptor's caught out of position on the left side. They all get focused down. There's no good hits.
Dude, he just threw.
Oh,
that's insane.
No. Stats bit off a little bit more than he could chew right there, going for the Planetary, and the Disruptor is out of position, means that Kira is going to run over this army and book his ticket to the round of 4. But what a series.
Dude, that was wild. You know, sometimes just the fact that the Planetary draws a little bit of damage, well, in this case, like probably a third of all the attacks are going to the Planetary, that's a waste, because the SCVs can repair that. That's like almost, in a weird way, if you think about it, like a giant shield battery for the Terran army, and that it's just soaking up so much extra damage. Kira's going to move on now. He's going to be the 3rd player in the Final 4, leaving us 3 more players to duke it out for that last spot. Stats, I got to say, he lost, and he lost due to a big mistake there at the end, and it looked like he pretty much had the game in the bag. But I can't emphasize enough how impressed I am with his performance.
He's playing out of his mind, I think. Has a really good chance of still emerging from this group in the second place. And, you know, maybe that'll favor him heading into the finals. So we now have an interview here with Cure. So Cure, after 2 seasons, you have made it to the semifinals. How are you feeling? Well, after the patch, I felt like I didn't really have a lot of time to catch myself up to new styles, new meta. But I'm happy to make it to the semifinals regardless of this, and I'm going to try my best to make it all the way to the finals. So against GuMiho on Oceanborn, when GuMiho went mech, you had so many Liberators. Did you think that Skytoss was the answer to mech? And Kira says, I'm not really sure if that is the answer or the way that game played out, but in practice I had a pretty good win rate playing that composition against mech, so I was comfortable with it. Now in the match against Stats, that was a really back and forth series. It felt like anybody could have won. When you finally realized you were going to win there in game number 3, what were you thinking? So whenever my opponents try to kill a planetary, I feel like it's my opportunity to win. So I was really happy in that final moment. So overall, looking at your performance today, did you meet your expectations, or how are you feeling about your performance? Well, since the patch is still really fresh, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare specifically for these opponents and these matchups. So I just try to focus on my opponent's innate styles. And so, Kira, you did make it to DreamHack Dallas, and you also qualified for GSL Season 2 automatically by getting top 4. So how are you feeling? And Kira says, well, after I had an injury, I thought it was going to take me a really long time to recover, but actually my recovery's been faster than I've expected. I'm playing well, so I'm really happy with my results overall. So in the semifinals, your first opponent is going to be Maru. How do you feel? Well, Maru is always a scary opponent. But this time, I'm not going to try to beat Maru specifically. I'm going to try to just play well. I'm going to focus instead on myself and playing well, instead of fixating on my opponent being Maru. So, you know, the finals day is both the semifinals and the finals all in one day. Is there anything you want to say before the semifinal match? Kira says, yeah, Maru, please go easy on me. Any words for your fans? Well, you know, I've been working hard to show a good performance for my fans, so cheer for me. I hope to show good games, yada, yada,
fans
yada.
and my scans. Guys, we're going to go to a quick break. SHIN vs. GuMiho coming up next.